and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we talked about admitting difficult truths.
Oh, yeah.
Today, for episode number 288, we are going to do a small talks episode on mentors and why they are so important.
So this is one of my favorite topics of all time. 288, man.
288.
288.
Coming
up on 300.
300.
My goodness.
Not bad.
All right, before we jump into this episode on mentors and why they are so important, first, I want you to go to your laptop or your phone, www.
Not if you're driving.
Not if you're driving, topnotchlive2020.com. And on that website, you're going to buy a BOGO ticket to our upcoming event on Saturday. Folks, we are less than a week out. I am excited. I can feel the anticipation. Half excited, half anxious.
Well, that's usually how it goes.
Some would say living. And 8 speakers, 2 Q&A panels, hour and 15 minutes for lunch. We've got some special surprises, raffles, things like that. Folks, there's 2 discount codes. One is if you're a listener to this podcast, type 2020 at checkout. You'll get $20 off your BOGO ticket, which would mean $77 for 2 tickets. If you're a college student, we will have the registration volunteers who register you at the desk check your college ID. You type student, all lowercase, for $30 off your BOGO ticket, which would make it $67. Come see us.
One of the reasons events like this are so impactful is because you get to rent mentors for the day.
Right.
You get to hear somebody's best half hour of knowledge and wisdom, and then they go.
Right.
Like, then you may never see them again, or they may end up as a coach, or you may buy one of their products. But that's one of the reasons why these events are so fire, because you get to see people that might be your mentors.
Who have we met at events?
Anthony Trucks.
Kim Spencer,
Kim
Summer
Spencer,
Spencer.
yeah.
Summer Scalero.
Summer Scalero. But even that, like, look at the people that we've seen. Like, we saw Anthony Trucks on stage.
I know.
And now he's a buddy sending us his friends to be interviewed or to speak on our stage. And
I'm actually looking forward to the speeches. I want to see Tori speak.
Right.
I want to see.
Right.
Like, I want to be in the audience taking notes more than the attendees probably.
You will be.
Yeah.
You will be. But I think that's one of the reasons why these things are so important. Also, Hyperconscious Nation is our private Facebook group. If you're looking to spend time with some like-minded individuals, you can ask us any questions you want. We'll answer them. We always take podcast suggestions in there as well. And we are going to be having a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff in here as well. I have made the intention to maybe put some stuff up about how I do the teaser clips or the behind the scenes of the podcast, that sort of thing. Okay, mentors and why they are so important, episode number 288. Let's do this.
So first and foremost, why are we doing this episode, Kevin?
We are doing this episode because when we look back on the last year or 2 years, one of the biggest things that has had an impact on us is the people that we have been lucky enough to be mentored by, whether it's T-Mac, living with him for the entire month of December last year, whether it's Dave Meltzer being able to talk to him every other week, and ask him 5 questions, similarly to what we have going on here. Working with Peter Taunton is going to be absolutely fire. Evan Carmichael messages us out of the blue and says, hey,
YouTube.
You should do this with your YouTube. Like, because you're going to get cheat codes that other people have that are, they went through the same thing that you did. You can avoid the pitfalls. Like Dave Meltzer calls it the dummy tax.
Right.
Right? Like, I paid the dummy tax. Now you get the cheat codes on how not to fall into the same things. Again, pretend you're playing a video game. You're on level 1. Somebody on level 15 is like, oh, this is how you get through the first 14 levels.
It's unreal how much of a cheat code
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's
Imagine
crazy.
having the... You remember Ocarina of Time, Zelda?
Oh, yeah,
N64?
man. Of course I
Dude,
do.
the strategy guide.
Yeah.
You bought the strategy guide,
Right.
and you literally had all the answers. I remember I got stuck on the damn water temple for, like, the longest time.
Squid.
And anyone who had the strategy guide on how to do it was, like, gonna beat me by a significant margin. That's what mentors are like.
Yes. All right, so we wrote down 5 questions.
Yes.
Because we want to make sure that we can add the most amount of value to you guys. So question number 1, and Alan and I will both answer this together, but how do you know the right mentor for you?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
So I often say that it is the right coach or mentor for you if their micro is your desired macro. In other words, if their day-to-day life is your dream. So let's say someone has the physique of your dreams. Let's say someone has the financial success of your dreams. Let's say someone has the business of your dreams or the relationship of your dreams. You want to go to them because their day-to-day life is what you aspire to. Therefore, they can help you with that.
So I would say, it's funny you would answer the question that way. I would answer it my way, which is make sure that their teaching style is congruent with your learning style. So as an example, one of the reasons I love when Evan sends us messages is because he just tells me exactly what to do.
Right.
Hey, your YouTube channel sucks. Do this and it'll get better. Hell yeah. Love you, man. Thank you. Where, again, Dave Meltzer is, he's a wizard.
Right.
He literally is a wizard. We learn so much from him, but it's taken me time to understand how to learn from him and how to formulate questions that are not going to
Right.
lose cred with him. Right? He's so focused on the future, where Alan is so focused on the future, where Evan is focused on what do I do now? Right? He's running split tests every day on his YouTube channel.
I know.
He does the stuff. He's a tactician versus somebody who
he likes micro. He's
Right.
him and I have argued about macro versus micro.
Right.
Literally.
So I would learn.
I still disagree
learned
with you,
better. I learned better from Evan. Alan learns better from Dave.
But
now,
both can learn from both.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm focusing on how to learn better from Dave. You could focus on how to learn better from Evan.
Right.
So that's if their teaching style is congruent with your learning style, that is a great mentor for you. Okay.
Fire.
Question number 2. Once you do know the right mentor for you, how do you actually get them?
This is something that I really have come to understand is one of the most important things. So there's a book called How to Win Friends. Wow.
This is great.
Right, real good. Now that we have the big timer, I'm like, oh my God,
the pressure's
time
on.
crunch, pressure's on.
I also,
time is a minute.
just so you know, the reason I want this in the studio is because it'll prime our subconscious to when we're on stage, we'll recognize it.
I know.
Yeah.
Fire.
Miyagi.
So, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a book. Definitely pick that up if you have not yet. He basically says the person who has this skill has the whole world with him. The person who does not walks a lonely way. That's powerful. Him or her. By the way, I don't like how old books always use him. It bothers me. But anyways, so him or her, if you have this skill, what is this skill? The skill is persuasion and influence. Okay. If you understand someone else's desires, ambitions, fears, the better you understand what their top strategic priority is, the better you can showcase how you fit into that. So the question was, once you know what mentor is good for you, how do you actually get them? You have to showcase yourself as valuable in terms of what they care about most.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, so again, it's going to be interesting. Our answers are definitely going to be not opposite, but they're going to be very different. So one of the reasons why I know Evan likes us is because when he tells me to do something, I do it immediately.
Right.
So once you do know how do you actually get them, you prove to them that you're a good mentee by taking action. And again, maybe that's somebody who's more micro focused. But
Interesting.
I remember this. After Your World Within Live, at the dinner, Evan sat next to Alan and myself. We had the laptop open on the table next to our salmon or whatever we got. And he said, I want you guys to make new thumbnails tonight.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, awesome, done. We didn't do it.
Right.
We went to Evan Carmichael's meetup the next day, and he said, how'd the thumbnails come along? And I said, Alan, I told you he was going to be pissed. And he was pissed.
I didn't even think he'd remember.
He was genuinely angry at us.
Right,
And he's like, you guys are screwing up.
Right.
So now that he's told me to do a couple things since then.
You know what's funny? We would not have Evan as a mentor if it wasn't for you, and we probably wouldn't have Dave as a mentor if it wasn't for me because of the macro and micro. I'm realizing that in this moment.
The next time we saw Evan, or the next time he spoke to us, he sent me something and said, hey, do your thumbnails. I created the thumbnails and I showed him. Good work. He messaged us recently and said, hey, your intro's too long on YouTube. I sent him a new one. He said, too long. Do it again. I did it again. Okay, now we're good.
He reminds me of Justin, and Dave reminds me of Nate with our fitness coaches.
So Justin used to be my fitness coach who basically made my meals, told me what to do, told me how much cardio to do. That's how I worked.
Loved working with you because you always did it.
Right.
Nate always taught me why and had me taught me how to fish. It's interesting. You need both.
You definitely need both. All right. Question number 3.
Right.
How often do you talk to them? So you might lock in the best mentor in the world. How do you actually go about, do you set up a call? Do you set up a text message? Do you have email exchanges? Do they just look at your stuff? Like, what do you think would benefit you the most? I think that's a good question to ask too. How often do you talk to them, and what would benefit you the most in terms of that timing?
So we can tell you what we do. So David Meltzer, we talk to every other week. We're trying to set up something with Peter for weekly. I do a monthly coaching call with my Aunt Joanne. One of my other mentors who has run several tech companies, I usually get dinner with him, and that's kind of more off the cuff. I get dinner with Dr. Robert every Sunday night, even though lately that hasn't happened because of the event. But it really depends on what you think is most valuable and what they're willing to do. Honestly, it's finding the line of what kind of time they can allocate.
Yeah.
And that's a very intuitive process. Like if you think a week, so for example, I did bi-weekly with my aunt, and she's so freaking busy because she runs her own business. Bi-weekly was a little too often, so we ended up moving it to a month. One of the things I want to say about this as well is when it's how often do you talk to them, I have on my system of success reach out to mentors. So I rate myself. Mentors is one of my ratings. One of them is intimacy, one of them is friends and family, one of them is dream team, one is mission, and one is mentors. 0 to 10. When I'm at like a 4 for mentors, I put in parentheses next to it who I need to reach out to next. Right now it's Jeff, it's Dr. Robert, and it's my aunt because I haven't touched base with them in a while.
Well, even if you were to do this, once you know how do you actually get them, if you getting them is money, it's going to be different than if you getting them is a plug on a podcast, if it's, exchanging services, if you're building their website. It's going to depend. It's going to be a big dependency on how you actually got them. If you're paying them $1,000 a call, they might want to do more calls than once a month.
Right, exactly.
Versus if they're doing it for free and they just want to see you grow, you're not going to get, I don't want to say you're going to get the scraps. You're going to get what they actually have to give.
Exactly.
So that's another thing too.
Fine.
All right. I think this one is one of the most important. So number 4, what are you actually looking for in terms of a mentor?
Clarity.
Are you looking for business advice? Okay. Are you looking for tactical things to grow your social media? Are you looking for podcast advice? Are you looking for fitness advice? What are you actually looking for? Because the answers your mentor gives can only be as quality as the questions that you ask.
Exactly. And how prepared are you for each meeting as well? So like with your mentors, can you just go through each one and then what you're looking for specifically from them?
Dave Meltzer, macro success, speaking, events. Not as much the podcast because I know he doesn't do it. He pays somebody to do that, right? Why wouldn't he? So yeah, Evan.
I would say influence though, for sure.
Influence, yeah,
right.
yeah. And
leadership.
Internal, getting to center and
self-management.
Yeah, self-management. Evan, tactical stuff.
Right.
What do you do
YouTube.
now for the biggest return on your investment tomorrow? Kind of.
Yeah.
With him.
Mostly YouTube.
Kim is a big mentor of ours.
Yeah, man.
Her, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's
really
everything
cool.
with her. It's finance, getting clients for sure. Kim Spencer is amazing at getting clients.
Right. High-ticket clients.
High-ticket clients. Going to events, pushing me to go to events.
I would say knowing your own bottlenecks, like knowing your subconscious bottlenecks.
Yeah.
Like she had a coaching call with me about money and some of my relationship with money and how to overcome that and why I haven't raised my prices.
And then Peter Taunton is going to be money. The guy literally did a transaction where he had $47 million in his bank account
twice,
after that.
multiple times.
Right.
Yeah.
So money, he knows how to build, scale, and advertise a business. So, but notice how clear I am on that. If I went to Peter Taunton and was looking for podcast advice.
Oh, right. You wouldn't know.
Right. And I think if you just assume that because the person is super successful, that they know everything that you want to know, I think that you'd learn pretty quickly that that's
definitely
not the case.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, know exactly what you're looking for and then know who fits that, which is really important. And then also remember the value of the call is only as good as, like for my Aunt Joanne, for example, her business hosted live events, not live events, but galas every quarter.
Galas.
Forever. For like the last 13 years.
My goodness.
And so I'm asking her a lot of advice around the events.
Right.
The call is only going to be as valuable as how well you're prepped and how clear you are on what you want, but also how clear you are on their expertise.
And that actually gets into the last question. So how do you maintain the relationship with this mentor, and how do you know when it's time to disconnect? The advice that your mentor gives you is only as good as your ability to follow through on that advice. And that is also how you maintain the relationship with your mentor.
Right.
If you have a mentor who genuinely cares about you, they want to see you doing the things that they tell you. And let's be real. One of the reasons somebody will work with you is because they see your potential.
Right.
If you
It's one of the main reasons, in my opinion.
Right. If you start off doing everything that they say, and then they see you slipping and making excuses and not doing what you're supposed to be doing, not taking your business or your anything, like you could have a relationship mentor, right? If they see you letting things slide and not taking things as seriously, they're going to withdraw some of their energy. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, they're going to look at effort.
Right.
Probably even more than results. They want results too, but they're going to look at the effort for sure. Like Dave, very first thing you said, we said, well, we have 5 questions prepped. So we were on our way to help Em and Tom move, and Emilia and I came up with questions on our way there on a Saturday morning in the car. And it's like the very first words out of his mouth were, that's my favorite part about you guys, is you're always prepared.
Right.
You know?
But the reason we learned, where did you learn that from? I think you brought that.
I thought you brought the questions.
Maybe.
Like, why don't we? I think at one point we were down here. You're like, why don't we prep questions in advance?
Well, you know what? I think because I was like, we do that for the podcast. Why wouldn't we do that for a coaching call?
You've always been better at prepping than me.
Well, then that's
Which is also why I think Evan is more drawn, or was more drawn to you.
Could be
because I didn't do the YouTube.
Could be these biceps.
It could be also. That
it could be the biceps.
If it's because you're jacked, it's most likely me.
No. That's not true.
That's not true. We have 1 second. Does that thing have a dinger?
It does. I turned it off because it was going off and I didn't want your mom to think the house was burning down.
Oh.
Probably
important.
How do you know when to disconnect? That's something that we haven't had a ton of experience with, but we always say this. As you get to know somebody better, you get to understand the reality of them more. And you might realize that their core values are not aligned with yours.
Right.
And you might not want to spend as much time with that person. You know when it's time to disconnect, when A, you realize that they don't have the things that you want, B, they're not helping you, or C, they disconnect with you, really.
Which they will do, by the way, if it's incongruent.
Right.
So incongruence to me comes down to 2 primary things. Goals in conflict or core values in conflict. And I'll give you an example with one of my clients. At first, it started out as fitness. Usually, we try to master that arena first. Once that arena starts getting mastered, we start transitioning to peak performance in business. One of my clients, I'm helping her grow her business. That's only congruent because I love peak performance in business and in fitness. If I didn't love peak performance business coaching, I would not have her as a client still.
Right.
So you have to understand what the other person's values are and their goals are. And if the goal is in alignment. So super simple example. When you raised your prices to high-ticket podcast producing clients, now all of a sudden, mindset coaching is not going to be as high of a priority. Why? Because that's no longer congruent.
Right.
It's not as effective use of your time. So that's an example of incongruence.
Yeah, we had a gentleman reach out in Hyperconscious Nation and say, where can I get coached by Kevin and Alan? And I messaged him back and sent him to Alan because right now my main priority is I love coaching on podcasting more than I've loved coaching on anything else. I love it. And not only that, but it makes me a better podcaster because I realize where I'm jeffing.
Right. That's your core value and your goals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 2 things or a couple things. If I want your takeaways from this episode to be a couple things. Number 1, I used to lie to myself and say it doesn't matter that I don't have mentors. Did it not matter? I mean, whatever. It's not the end of the world. Right? It doesn't mean you can't be successful, but you will be far more successful far more quickly if you do have people around you that have the results that you want. They have the cheat codes. They know things that you don't. Then they know things that you want to know.
It's everything. I told myself that story too. Huge mistake.
That's number 1. And number 2, when you're watching somebody on TV, they do kind of become your mentor. Like if you're watching or listening to this podcast, we're mentoring you.
Right.
Right? You want more of what we have. If you're watching Kim Kardashian and keeping up with the Kardashians, to a degree, they're kind of mentoring you.
They're influencing you for sure.
Right. And that's what a mentor does. They influence you towards what they have.
Right.
So that's we're
towards
always,
what they are.
Right.
Right.
And that's why we're always trying to mentor you guys to hyperconsciousness because that's what we are. We're trying to become more of, and we understand the benefits of it. Got anything in closing?
10-second blip, brother.
10-second blip. Again, you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Make sure at least one of those people is way the hell ahead of you.
Right. Fire. My 10-second blip is actually 10 seconds.
Noted.
What holds your attention is controlling your decisions, which is controlling your life.
That was 6 seconds maximum.
Nice.
Maximum. That was strong work. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this. Up next on Friday, we are going to be doing a Scratching the Surface episode on revisiting your why power. We talk about why power a lot, but it can be difficult the law of familiarity creeps in, and you might forget why you started something in the first place. When times get rough, you focus on the pain, not necessarily on what drew you to that journey in the beginning.
You would never run into a burning building because it could be painful and dangerous, but if something you loved or someone you loved was in there, you would.
Yes, you would.
That's why power.
That is why power. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope you'll enjoy that, and we will talk to you on Friday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.